He's a good dog. He's a good dog.
Mount number 1 is now done. Here's the remote filler neck. Look, it's grand. It's just me being fussy. Hello everybody. This is my first attempt at this now, so we'll see how this goes, but this is the current state of this thing. I don't know. Molly just wants to play ball, that's main priority. You posing for the camera, Molly? Posing?
He's a good dog. He's a good dog.
But yeah, so probably most of you actually know this car, and if you don't, you probably will by the time we're finished all this, but it's actually quite old now. I better throw a ball here, keep this still occupied. It was built originally probably about 4 years ago. Just an old A6 Corolla, drift car. Mount I've seen it about. Has a K20 turbo engine in it, that's it sitting over there. It's going to need a rebuild now because it's done a bit. It seems happy, seems fine. Did a compression test on it before it came out, so it should be grand. Just refresh it, new bearings and stuff like that. Basically how we ended up here was loads of trouble last year with the gearbox. Kept breaking gearboxes. Just using an RX-8 gearbox, so that's kind of understandable. So I got a sequential for it. And then it didn't fit without putting a tunnel in it, which is now in because I hadn't planned really filming any of this, and probably should have, you know, because it started out initially, I was only putting the box in and tying up a few things, and then, as I say, I had to cut out the tunnel, so the paintwork wasn't great in the car, so I might strip it, and then wasn't happy with how the engine's mounted, and the whole case of escalation. So now basically I'm starting from scratch again, pretty much replacing everything, or redesigning everything. There'll be some parts kept. Thought I'd bring you maybe along the journey so you can see how I think about things and how I do things, and we can argue about if it's right or it's wrong. But so, as I say, tunnels in. This was my Christmas project. Basically taught myself how to MIG weld. Pretty happy with it, worked out okay. I was in that process, I changed it to chassis mount for the engine, because previously it was mounted with a subframe, which is over there actually. It's chassis front in this car, but usual story, you need to do anything, take the sump off the engine, do anything, it's a whole disaster because you have to drop the subframe, then there's nothing holding the engine. If you need to change the rack, it's a disaster. Generic chassis mount kit from Group 4 for Mark II Escort has been modified to fit. Obviously, you see the car's in primer now, so I sent it to get blasted because it's the last time I'm planning on doing anything really. It's going to be done right, what I think right this time. A bit of a repair to be done in here because obviously as power went up and grip went up, you know, over the years we've been running the car, I started trying to rip the subframe out, so all this has to be cut out and redone. And as you can see, there's a bar there that's been bent thanks to Matt. Matt's garage, big V8 guy, he bent that up for me, so that's going to hopefully help keep the subframe in the vehicle. Subframe, it's a Mazda RX-8 thing, independent suspension, so kind of complex with the way the geometry works, but when it works good. Oh yeah, that's another thing, radiator is now in the back. Wasn't initially part of the plan, but whenever I moved the engine back in the engine bay, we'll have footage of that, or photos of that. I'll get Sean to throw them in or whatever. There's loads of space then between the radiator and the intercooler, which is in front of the car, like probably about, I think it was maybe like 14 inches or something like that. I thought, well, if I move the intercooler right back to the front of the engine and put the radiator in the back, it'll leave loads of crumple zone. If we have any crashes or impacts, you're not going to hit anything vital. And obviously there's new pumps and stuff here now. This is the change in fuel and a few things as well this year. Tank has moved forward a couple inches, tank used to be farther back. And this little plate that Nathan at Celtic Customs made up for me there last week, just for the top of the radiators, just to make it look a little bit nicer than putting a big stupid flat bar on it. So I'm going to draw up a drawing for a fan shroud now for him, and get him to make that up for me, because obviously, as most of you know, I'm not a fabricator. I think I'm a little bit better with wires and laptops than I am with a welder, but here this is a little challenge for me, so we'll see how it goes. Some engineering going on in here at I don't know if you'll see it or not, suspension pickup points, but that'll be for another day. I'll explain that and why I'm doing that way. Gearbox, we'll go into that in more detail. It's getting a tractor 5-speed sequential, quite a common gearbox used in rallying, not so much in drifting, in my opinion. From all the cars that I've driven and tuned and everything over the years, it's got the nicest feeling gear shift. I got kind of lucky. A local guy was changing to a 6-speed, so I got the used 5-speed, which had only done a handful of rallies for somewhat affordable money. So this is kind of the ongoing story of these drift cars. You put them together and you think you've everything right, and then it finds the next weakest link and it moves on. Steering column, works perfectly fine, but I don't like the look of the way it comes through the dash, so that's all going to be changed. The floor mounted pedal box is going back in the way it was. You can probably see there's loads of different holes, because this thing normally ends up being a bit of a rental. This thing nearly did more laps with other people drive it this year than I did, so that's part of the reason behind the adjustable steering column and the pedals. Seat stays in its fixed position all the time. Seat doesn't move. It basically can't, because it's so far back it touches the cage. Yeah, pedals, whenever I'm driving, obviously because I'm short, is, you know, at the closest point to the seat, and then you can push them forward for a taller driver or whatever. So there's another bar here which is going here at the front. Basically will be a sort of such a strut brace, goes from here across to here to tie that in, because again, old Corolla, you can see what it's, I can literally pick the whole car up with one hand, so they're fairly flexible. So I'm back and I've made a rookie mistake. I let the battery go flat, so the strut brace is now in the car. So welded up, painted up. Well, it's just primered in Gary Dunn's favourite colour. The back bar, I haven't done that yet. Still the same as the last day. I have the bit that was all cracked. The corner there is all cut out, so I need to shape up piece to put in. But I think what I'm going to do now is put the engine back in for about the 100th time, because I need to do the intercooler mounts. They're going to be here somewhere. I'll likely bolt them in, but it's just, I want to get all the stuff that has to be done to the chassis done before it goes for paint. So before I do that, I'm going to cut off. This is the old mounts that the radiator and intercooler was on before, and I get rid of them because they're a pain in the ass when I'm trying to put the engine in, because everything hits off them. So we'll go now and see how this goes. Engine is back in. Well, technically it's not really back in, because I cheated. It's still actually attached to the engine stand. I just pulled the shell forward on the lift, and another reason why chassis mounts are great. And don't laugh at my wooden engine mounts, there's actually a reason for that. There's a rubber bushing, normally pressed into, or will be pressed into the mounts when they're done, but they're going to go get powder coated. So rather than like pressing the bushing in and press it out, fooling about whenever they've been welded up, because they come in pieces, got a rubber bushing made up, put it in, and that way I was able to solid mount everything, weld it up, and nothing would move, would be out of place. So the old radiator mounts are now gone. I painted up in Gary's favourite colour again, and now I'll go make an attempt at putting in the crossbar, because I don't know if you'll see this, but this is how flexible old Corollas are. So there's no point in making anything without the tension rod support in, because when that stuff moves about a lot. So cross brace is in. This is the same as what we call like a tension rod mounted in an S chassis, I guess, but kind of needed to strengthen the chassis legs, and this thing so goes a bar the full way across. There is no bottom radiator support. But so intercooler mounts. The plan is to have two bottom mounts of, if you can see here, one there, and some sort of an up and over thing. So it's still work in progress, and I might do a time lapse or something of the whole process, because it's going to take me forever. Mount number 1 is now done. 100mm flat bar, you call it. Drilled a hole, shaped it, bent it, so a little bit of strength. And then the beam, it will, if you can see, bolt to the intercooler like that. Be welded on here like that, and then I'll do the top support. So I'll go off now and do another one exactly the same. So both bottom mounts are now packed in there. The big panic on getting the intercooler mounted was I had been trying to figure out what way I was going to do the top mounts. Initially, I had in my head was going to bring them back here and I'd have to drill the chassis and stuff. So I wanted that done before it was painted, but now I've changed my mind and I'm going to bring them from the front, where there's 2 bolt holes already for the tension rod or tension brace or whatever you want to call it. So there's no panic on making intercooler mounts at all really. So I'm going to wait now before I do the top mounts until I get the turbo and manifold, because I'm not exactly sure where this pipe's going to end up routing, and then the intake pipe for the turbo and air filter's going to end up down here, and there's some pipe there, but look, I'm only guessing that it's going to end up a mess, and I still am not exactly 100% sure what turbo I'm using yet. This is just going to have to be put to one side for a while. Bottom mounts now for the intercoolers, all welded in fully. Leaving top mounts till later, as I said, but happy enough with how they turned out. I drove that extra little hole for no real reason other than making it look good. Little bending in for strength, so that ain't going anywhere. And kind of getting the hand of the glue stick. Next, I probably need to finish off that bar inside there and plate up that big hole, but there's a new box here, array from OBP, some aluminium stuff for water lines, fuel filler cap and that, so I think Molly's all excited to get open the box. Let's see what's in here. So here's the remote filler neck, whenever I'm actually fitting it. I'll explain all the reasons why I chose this over some of the more fancy ones. So this will end up being the water swirl pot. I guess it's probably for fuel, probably what it's intended for, but I have a theory, because this car always had a swirl pot for water beforehand. Well, before I had that, I had lots of problems bleeding it. So what I've done is got this, which will mount on the back, on the firewall at the back, and then bits to make a radiator cap, well-done radiator cap. This will go at the top, and 2 very fancy AE86 long reach weld-on fittings. These are pretty cool. That's what this dude looks like. So he's going to go on here, the other one there. Well, actually no, he's going to go on like this, and we'll go inside the car. So this will be through the firewall. It'd be nice to even have a flat side on them for tightening, so that you're not swinging off everything and break it. So now it's time to fix up the bit of chassis that was cracked back here. So it's done to cardboarded design here to make up a little template, but I hate sheet metal work, so that's why I'm letting Niall do the rust repairs. But once I put in the crossbar or the strengthening brace or whatever you want to call it here, you can't get at this bit that needs repaired. So that's why I gotta do it first, so sucks to be me. Well, the bar's in now anyway. You probably heard I got a good old sizzler in the air there, and it's not nice. Yeah, anyway, if you're wondering why I was painting some of the stuff before I welded it, which might seem stupid. Obviously you won't be able to get to the back of the bar now that it's welded in, and so whenever the car is painted properly you would end up with bare metal in there, and you'd have horrible rust stains like running down the panel on the inside. So good coat of that primer, it's never going to rust, it's never going to be white behind the bar, but at least it's not going to be rusty. And I have my little bit of sheet metal in there. It's not that pretty, but anyway, it's strong and it'll do the job. So the next move, it'll have to get some nice gussets here now, just to make it look pretty. So, and then I'll paint the full bar. So, kind of skipping ahead now to the remote fuel filler neck. Chassis stuff's kind of on hold now until I get my new suspensions, because it has to get new turrets. But that's a little bit fancy, so a wee bit excited for that. Plan is now to cut these big kind of side feed radiator ducts and fuel filler neck in here. So
the next day.
So this has been this evening's project. This crossbar. Technically it's not really needed for drifting, it's not in the regulations, but I'm kind of maybe planning on doing some other forms of racing this year that could possibly end up upside down. With the fiberglass roof, that's kind of just for safety more so than anything. So I've been the last probably 4 hours of this now, cutting and notching and cutting and grinding, because again it's not my speciality really, but it's in now and I better weld it up and close the lid on this wheelie bin. The bar's all glued in now, and thankfully didn't burn myself too badly. I'm actually pretty happy with how it all turned out for an amateur. Ideally, look, it is what it is, but ideally the A-pillar bar should be, or the bend should really be an inch or so farther forward. It is what it is, because it's not ideal having this bar here so low, so close to the driver. So that's why this new bar is so far forward and kinked, just in case you had a big impact, and if the harnesses weren't tight enough. Well, last thing you want to do, even you're wearing a helmet, is whacking your head off the cage. It's always this case. Every cage, I suppose, custom cage is different, and when it's done you turn around and look at it and say, well, maybe that could have been different. The other issue that I do run into it is back here. The seat actually touches off it there. Look, it's grand. It's just me being fussy. I'm almost finished with the fabrication side of things on the chassis now, so it's almost time for paint. The only real major thing left to do is another tube there at the bottom, same as this side, to strengthen the subframe mount. So this bar was put in mid-season last year, but it started cracking all here. That's the new pit that you've already seen and welded in, but it's all cracking here, so put that in just as a quick temporary fix. So do the other side, keep it symmetrical. This bar is done. I'm waiting on dimple dies to make a gusset plate across here, so one down and one back. This big stupid square piece is clearance for the subframe. It is what it is. It could probably be nicer looking if there was like a triangulated piece there or whatever, but it's functional, it's working, does what it needs to do. But obviously if I was doing it again, make it look a little bit better looking. There is enough clearance now in the chassis that with the way that is, that I could if I wanted put a Winters or a Quick Change or a Bulldog or whatever brand, but I'm kind of against doing that because it's one of those things that maybe not everybody knows, but with the Quick Change, the power is transmitted through another set of gears, so you'd lose arguably, depending on heat and grade of oil and everything, but up to 10% of your horsepower drivetrain loss through winters, more than you would with an conventional diff. So for argument's sake, like a 500 horsepower car, you could lose 40 to 50 horsepower at the wheels. So it's one of those things, if it's not needed, I'll try and avoid using it, and I'm hoping with the new gearbox, I'll go through the ratios some later on, but first and second gears are quite long, and then third, fourth and fifth are all on top of each other, basically half gears. So I should be able to tailor my wheel speed, so rather than changing diff ratio, just run the car either third, fourth or fifth. So that's theoretically, I hope that works out for me. So I'll go get this bar made up and see how we get on now. Right, so today's project is to do the other shock top. So I have this side done. I did that last Saturday. It's taken me ages because I'm only getting really spent Saturdays on the car. I didn't record that because it was a full day operation, and let me figure out how I was going to go about it. So I'll do a time lapse of today or whatever, so you can see how I go about it. But basically, because the car is converted to independent suspension, the shock, the spring or the coilover as such all mounts to one spot. There's the old one right up there now. This is the, can you see that? This is the piece that I cut out of it. So obviously it wasn't designed to carry the full weight, because the spring and shock are separate on an original Corolla with the solid axle. So they're inclined to move or bend the original shock tops if you put all the force in one point. So that was my reasoning for making up my own new turrets, and they're braced to the cage. So yeah, that ain't moving. Yeah, it's a bit kind of scary because you have to go in with a 4-inch hole saw, and it's kind of ignorant enough, but it is what it is, and that's how we go about it. So So we're now pretty much finished most of the chassis fabrication things, both curve extensions or strengthening pieces, whatever you want to call them. They're in now, and I have I don't think I've shown, well, I think there's time lapse maybe of it, but the subframe delete prevention pieces in now, so that should hopefully keep the subframe attached to the vehicle. And I have my new steering column in. I'm really chuffed with this. It's a real nice bit of gear. It's what they call like a WRC style steering column. Normally used in rally cars and that, but it goes in and out and up and down, and that's kind of ideal for this thing because more times than not there's somebody else driving other than me. So hopefully now next time you see the thing, the shell's painted. Next major project for me is making the exhaust manifold, because I'm too awkward to use anything that's off the shelf. Exhaust manifold and all intercooler pipes, intercoolers and all that, so that's a pretty big project. So until then.